Ahead of the first parliament session of the new government, there are many questions. Will Rahul Gandhi take the position of leader of opposition? Will BJP keep the post of speaker? And who might be the next BJP president? All this and more on this special broadcast this evening on our Politics Roundtable. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. On Monday, a new session of parliament will convene, the first after the verdict of the 2024 elections. And right away, it will be a very different parliament from the first two terms. The Modi government has fallen below majority and the opposition is in an emboldened mood. But the questions remain. Will Rahul Gandhi take on the post of leader of opposition? So far, the party has said he's thinking about it. For the first time in parliament, there will be three members of the Gandhi family. Priyanka Gandhi, after she runs from Wayanad, where she's expected to win from. And questions continue as to who will be speaker. The BJP seems all set to keep the speaker's position, with reports that the deputy speaker could go to its ally, the TDP. These are the images from the last session when opposition members of parliament were suspended. It's likely to be a very different look to parliament this time. All of these developments have taken place on a day when a very interesting statement has come from Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan's son, talking about him as a leader who is now known from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, a leader before whom even Delhi has to bow down. On our politics roundtable, let's introduce our three experts today, three very eminent and incisive voices. Neerja Chaudhary, author and veteran journalist, is with us. Welcome, Neerja. Also joining us is Rajat Sethi, political analyst and author himself. Welcome, Rajat. And also joining us is Dilip Cherian, a master of political communication and imaging. Always a pleasure, Dilip. Let me start with you, Neerja. We are already talking about a kind of simmering confrontation between the opposition and the government over the new criminal laws that replace the IPC. This goes back to the last term when the opposition didn't have the numbers it did. There's the protest by students over NEET and the NAT UGC. Today, a third exam was in fact postponed. There's an anti-cheating law. What do you think will be the first week in Parliament like? What do you expect?
I think turbulence. That will be the name of the game. We know for decades now, really, years and years and years, Parliament has been turbulent. And you and I, when we would meet, a day before on the eve of the Parliament session, we would ask this question, will Parliament function? So if Parliament doesn't function on Monday it will function because the swearing in of oath taking of the MPs has to take place. And then, of course, is the President's address on the 27th. Of course, Speaker's election is on the 26th. So I think all that will go through smoothly. It is only when the reply to the motion of thanks comes that we will see fireworks expectedly on a whole lot of issues. As you say, the NEET leaks, which have agitated a very large number of students. And had this happened a little earlier, it might have actually affected the election outcome also. I think it's more potent than Agniveer in terms of the agitation among young people. And I'm not surprised that the minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, has been very conciliatory, taking moral responsibility, setting up a committee, and so on. And even from this RSS ranks, which is within the family of the BJP, the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad has taken very strong stand. That something must be done about it very quickly. So, yes, I think we will see contention, as I said, turbulence, and yet it will be a very strong, vibrant opposition we will see. And, of course, a government that will try and hold its ground. Interesting 80 Lok Sabha we are in for.
Yes, Rajat, one of the changes that we saw was Kiran Rijiju reaching out to Mallikarjun Kharge. We didn't actually see these kind of olive branches in the last two sessions of Parliament. Neerja Chaudhary mentioned the NEET agitation. The ABVP, which is affiliated to the ruling party, is also out on the streets. Dharmendra Pradhan has had to change his tonality from dismissing the protests as motivated to taking moral responsibility for what's gone wrong. Do you believe the government starts on a strong foot, or do you believe it's starting on a back foot because of these student protests that are impacting between the two exams 32 lakh young Indians?
So, see, both Dharmendra Pradhan ji and I think JP Nadda ji, both of them come from the ABVP as an organization. They understand, and if you go by the track record of ABVP, they've always resisted whenever it comes to student-related issues, because ultimately their entire ambit or the scope of their organization is student-centric agendas. So I don't read too much into it. Okay, this is my humble sort of opinion based on what is being talked about the ABVP. That's number. Number two, one thing that is sure is that government is on the back foot, and I think they realize and acknowledge that how big an impact can series of examination failures can have on the morale of the youth of this country. And also keep in mind that barring all the exit poll outcomes which were wrong, there were certain insights which were there even in Access My India, that the young, the Gen Z, 18 to 25 years, that is where BJP's hold has considerably weakened. And that is the BJP will have to really change its communication game plan, its strategy vis-a-vis Gen Z. They are not able to relate or appeal on their policies to this category of voters. And I believe from that perspective too, BJP would be very cognizant that they would want to take very nuanced and delicate steps when it comes to issues addressing this core segment of the voters. This is what I feel. And lastly, I think what the opposition has been successful, and it got reflected even in your opening statement, Barkha ji. You said that Modi government, and I'm just quoting it as is, Modi government has fallen below majority.
Yeah.
See, this is, what they've been, and this is factually incorrect, by the way.
What do you
Modi
mean?
government has. So, see,
Okay,
you said
Modi,
Modi
the
government.
BJP, I see what you're saying. The BJP has
So
fallen
this
below
is no, this is
majority,
not
not the
your fault.
government.
This is
Yes.
this is not your fault, Barkha. This is consistently what the opposition has been able to do successfully is they have been able to staple minority and Modi together. That he is running a minority government. And this is true, and I've been discussing with various international media channels also. Everybody is not saying that it is a stable coalition government. They're all saying, oh, he's running a minority government. So this changes a lot of perception games globally also. And I think this is where opposition is getting its confidence from, and it will get reflected even in the floor of the house. You will see confrontation, no doubt about it, and all the flashpoints clearly the initial advantages with the opposition as the session opens.
Yeah, no, I do take your point. The technically correct thing to say is that the BJP fell below majority, but the government with its allies is not below majority, and I stand corrected technically on that. But I want to pick up on something you said. You said the BJP, even in the exit polls, there was some anticipation that the BJP was losing its hold in the Gen Z, in the young people. Now, more than 65% of India is under the age of 35, Rajat. This has to be very worrying for the BJP. Yet we don't see any overt attempt to change tack. So far, it's been just a few days. I mean, we have to give the government more time. But the cabinet is the same as before. Mr. Pradhan's initial responses were a bit tone deaf. He's tried to be very conciliatory now, taking moral responsibility. The ABVP, as we said, is out on the streets when it comes to these student exams. What is the narrative, or what is the gear shift that you would expect or you think the government ought to make to target and woo these young people in particular?
See, continuity and reflecting continuity was important, and I think this is where everybody has been consistent that having the same set of ministers and all shows continuity and confidence. So that is good. But what BJP needs to do now is within the organization, they need to come up with massive changes. They need to come up with a different communication game plan. They cannot be aggressive or be in a same front footing most of the issues the way they have been doing. They have to be more nuanced in their outreach. They need to have a very different operations even on social media when it comes to being able to sound relatable to the Gen Z. All of that changes quite a lot, and if the organization doesn't get or understand these signals, they would be in trouble. And I think this is one big course correction that they need to do. College students, there is a discord, there is a disconnect between what the BJP is saying and doing and what where they are.
Dilip, do you want to step in? Basically, Mr. Modi has been the master of political communication in his first two terms, but right from the campaign up until the first few days, as Rajat points out, it's the government has missed a moment or two. It sometimes seemed out of sync with with what people are talking about. So if people are, young people are out on the streets talking about the exams, the Prime Minister is not talking about that. He's talking about something else. My question to you is: do you agree that the government starts off on the back foot because Parliament is entering with this perception that the opposition has communicated that the government is a weak government, B, the student agitations?
I think more than the student agitation is the fact that everybody knows that the two big things to watch are the speaker election and the party president. I know that you're going to come to that later, so I'm not going to steal your thunder on that subject. But I think we need to understand that for example, a BJP, one of those BJP supporting social media handles about an hour ago tweeted, or a few hours ago tweeted something which then got erased within minutes, and several BJP spokespersons sent it to me, which was a series of a thread of 5 tweets, which basically said that this mandate clearly goes for the BJP, but it also clearly wants and has asked for change. And that having a repeat of 15 people in the government at the top is not a reflection of accepting the mandate. So I think that we need to recognize that the reading of the mandate itself, Rajat has spoken about the age profile. Now I'm going to say something which I've already got a lot of pushback earlier in the last few days. I think that the young people of this country are not taking Parliament seriously. They're not watching it. The numbers have just fallen off a cliff. And it is very likely that except for a few, shall I say, old school people, the importance we put on what is the nature of discourse in Parliament is not what is defining the mood of the street. The mood of the street starts from Neath and goes all the way up to Dalal Street, where the money made and lost on the stock market has become a mass issue. It is not just confined to the millions of new women who are day traders. It's also gone to young people who have been learning how to play the markets. So I think that we need to understand that the employment market, the education market, and the stock markets are all in a state of non-willingness to accept the current state of play. I think that government needs to steady the ship, and I completely agree that the message of continuity was something that was calculated to help. But is it sufficient to help is the question, and I think the jury's out on that.
I have a question though. When you say the government needs to steady the ship, the government would argue the ship is steady. That's what Rajat said, that it's the opposition that is creating this perception that the ship is unsteady. The ship is steady. The government is steady. The government has majority. The BJP doesn't, but the government does. So what do you mean by saying the government needs to steady the ship?
Without revealing any state secrets, it is well known, and Rajat has sort of valiantly tried to talk about the ABVP as not something to worry about. But I think the signals emanating out of Nagpur are very significant to those who are privy to what's going on there. I don't have the detail, so asking me more questions is not going to get me anywhere. But there is no doubt that the comments made during the election and the comments and presence of Mohan Bhagwat in Gorakhpur are all signs that there is an unsteadiness. It was not an issue which was debated during the previous two parliaments that we had. So I think things have changed and we need to recognize that.
So, Nirja, would you agree? Because there are two ways of reading, what the statements that have come from RSS. The RSS chief spoke about how a true Swayam Sevak can never be arrogant. He spoke about how the Maryada that should be there in a campaign was missing. Indresh Kumar of the RSS went one step further. He said Lord Ram has stopped those who are arrogant at 241. The point is, while there has always been a certain degree of healthy tension between the RSS and the BJP, we saw it during the Vajpayee years where the RSS vetoed Jaswant Singh, for example, from the post of finance minister, and there were other examples. Is this something new? Because the other side would say Mr. Modi has delivered more on the RSS's agenda than any other BJP leader has or could.
True,
Nidya?
Narendra Modi has fulfilled the RSS core agenda, Ram Temple, Article 370 being abrogated, and taken steps towards uniform civil code. Now, while this is true, they know he was their best bet for fulfilling the core agenda. They also have felt unhappy on several counts in terms of policy, in terms of, Atmanirbharta that he's talked about, self-reliance at the BJP, crony capitalism. There's several things that they may have felt unhappy about, but above all, at being sidelined. In the first year of Narendra Modi, you remember, he'd taken the entire cabinet to meet the RSS leadership. This happened here in Delhi, this happened in Mumbai. That did not happen later on. So I think the RSS, and Mohan Bhagwat is not like K. Sudarshan 20 years ago, who spoke very openly, publicly, and I would say even harshly, that Mr. Vajpayee and L.K. Advani must make way for the younger leadership. He's been quite nuanced, he's very measured with his words, and he's not directly attacked the BJP or the Prime Minister, but it's clearly decoded as such. And he's also made very conciliatory gestures to the opposition. In a democracy, you have two sides to the story. And you have Virodi, and I won't call them enemies, but I would call them Pratipaksh, opponents, competitors rather. So I think, and of course, others have taken the cue. Now, RSS would like to reconfigure the relationship between it and the BJP. And they've held several meetings, and the sticking point, if at all it comes, I think it will not come, will be who will be the party president. They will immediately, after Mr. Nadda's term gets over on 30th June, they are, I believe, going to go in for an executive president. That was the talk. And then go in for elections and probably have a elected president early next year. But the RSS would certainly like to have a say in who becomes the president, more from the point of view of building up the organization and the organization being separate from the government. As one person told me, somebody into the whole RSS system, we cannot have yes men. Yes, sir, is the word he used. We cannot any longer have, because you need to concentrate on the organization. So I think Mr. Modi will want to stabilize his government. He will want to win some of the state elections that are due out of the 5 in the next 1 year. If he has successive defeats, voices may be raised from within the entire Sangh system, including BJP, raising questions about the leadership. I don't expect it to happen very easily at all, Mr. Modi being what he is. But those are the things, I think a rebalance needs to take place between the RSS and the BJP.
Let me bring in Rajat on that. Rajat, you have already on this program spoken about how there's a wreckage. I remember your phrase, wreckage in Maharashtra. You have today spoken candidly about the BJP losing touch or losing its grip over young voters. You said in the beginning that the opposition has successfully created this narrative that the government, the government doesn't have majority. When Dilip and Nirja talk about the need for stability, they are not so much talking about it vis-a-vis the opposition, but vis-a-vis their own backyard. Do you agree that the statements from the RSS are a message to the Prime Minister?
For the past 10 years, Barkhaji, if you were to parse the Vijay Dashmi speeches of the Sarsang Chalak, you will always find 1 or 2 lines here and there which you can possibly, the ground wasn't there because it was a uber strong majority that way. So you couldn't fit those lines into what is going on. But remember, this is where how media sort of analyzes, RSS leaders, various layers of leadership's voices. I personally feel that they still do not have some kind of again, I'm talking very, very with all humility, I personally feel that they still do not have that nuanced understanding of how Sangh operates. It's like two rails. They run parallelly. They don't interact. Plus, two organizations. One organization has an age of around 40, 45 years. The other organization is stepping into a 100-year journey. Both organizations would have condensed egos, and they don't necessarily need to, otherwise, I mean, if they are equal in every opinion, why would they not merge and create one whole bigger entity? It doesn't work like that, because organizational ego exists. Secondly, the core agendas that were being talked about, that okay, 370 and Ram Mandir, these are the two core agendas. I personally feel these were just a couple of milestones. RSS's journey is much longer, has much deeper sort of ambitions and goals around how they want to build the society and how they want to do Vyakti Nirman, say Rashtra Nirman. They have very different agenda items, which I personally feel that just these two things were barely important milestones and nothing beyond that. Therefore, I believe that do not expect things to change in a very big way. Pratinidhi Sabhas that happen of the core executive of the RSS have always seen that there is some level of synchronization of efforts with the BJP, because the BJP president is necessarily there for over 2-3 days, and at times they stay for even 9 days together. So there is exchange of notes. Even there is exchange of notes with the Prime Minister and with the, if not the Sarsang Chalak, then definitely the Kareva, the Sehkareva of the BJP on a regular basis. I personally feel that the media now, they're looking with that biases and with this confirmation biases, are looking where are the possible cracks, and then zooming those cracks and showing that as if, everything is going to fall into that crack. It's not going to happen. Trust me on that. Yes, there will be certain, as I said, two organizations have their own respective egos. Those small friction points always remain. The other parties don't have it.
Okay, but what if there are consecutive electoral defeats in the assembly? That's what Mirja alluded to, that only if that happens. You see, if the BJP manages to stave that off, that automatically the leadership is in a very strong position, or a much stronger position than today. But if Maharashtra, Jharkhand, Haryana do not go the BJP's way, which are the next 3 elections, then do you think this question that I'm asking you would be more valid?
But it will not. I don't think it is necessarily going to come from the RSS. From within the RSS also, if you look at the politics, there are enough number of top functionaries of the RSS who are very, very close to Prime Minister Modi. So don't just go by that, okay, it's a one uniform leadership of the RSS which will necessarily come in and demand accountability from the BJP. First of all, it won't. They are not wired that way. They will certainly say that yes, course correction needs to be done, but beyond that, they would not want to go about doing micro surgeries within the BJP. I don't see that happening. Yes, if they believe that the ideological political ideological entity for them is going off course, they would give suggestions. It is up to the BJP if they agree to the suggestions or not. But I am of the firm view that yes, if they lose, there might be questions from the party president, from Prime Minister Modi, and all of that from within the organization, and that might as well be addressed within the organization without any substantive changes to the government. In all likelihood, BJP is good, and Prime Minister Modi is very, very agile when it comes to rapidly making changes both within the organization and within the government.
Let me get quick responses. Then I want to play out a very interesting statement from Shivraj Singh Chauhan's son, Dilip. I think Rajat makes a valid point that just like the BJP is not a monolith, though it feels like one right now because the command of Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah is so complete. But the BJP of older years, we all remember that it was there were camps within. There was one leader who was close to someone, and there was another leader who was close to someone. He's making the point that the RSS is also not one unitary body, that the RSS as an organization will look for, kind of micro engineering within the BJP. What do you say? Can we unmute Dilip, please? Yeah, go ahead, Dilip.
To my mind, it's not about micro engineering anymore. These are, I think, moments of tectonic shift. We've never had a situation where you've got and you get to hear of people from within the organization raising the kind of issues that they're raising today. The pushback on the NEET is just one example of it. But I think that we need to wait till, for example, the budget is presented. And there will be a whole bunch of issues close to that. Let me tell you that there are now within the BJP itself And they have been, but they've been silent because of the term that Rajat used of the massive majority or the brute majority. But I think the fact that that majority has shrunk has allowed other voices from within the party. Now, for a moment, forget what is happening from the remote control. Just focus on what's going on within the party, and the subject you're going to get onto, which is Shivraj Chauhan's son. There are other noises from Rajasthan, loud noises from Rajasthan. So you are hearing noises of the kind, and then the most significant noise is coming from Uttar Pradesh, where we know the level of discord and discontent, questions about the seats which were given out, the tickets which were issued, etc. So I don't think these have anything to do with the RSS. They all have to do with BJP and sounds within.
Nisha, that's interesting that it's not the RSS, it's the BJP. But this has long been, even in 2019, there was talk that if the BJP falls below a certain number, there will be the Gadkaris and the Rajnath Singhs that will emerge, they will be outspoken. There is no basis as of now to say that. A lot, yes, does depend on what happens with the assembly election. So let me put it to you differently. Mr. Modi is a very smart politician. He's not just going to sit back and watch any of this happens if this churn is going to happen. He's going to do something to contain it. He's going to do something to anticipate it. There are many people who are convinced that it's not that Mr. Modi, the rug will be pulled from under his feet. He will call a midterm. He will find a context to call it. He will go to the people and say, give me a clear majority this time. Any number of options are on the table. But what we can all agree on is that he's an uber smart politician. What might he be looking to do to stem what Dilip calls this tectonic shift?
Look, for number one, just before I answer your question, the RSS would not like to do anything to bring down this government, because the government that comes in its place may undo its agenda. Mr. Modi, having now facing 5 state elections, would like to get the RSS back on board to help campaign, which they did not do, and it's an open secret in several states, including UP. Because without that, he may be in trouble. Mr. Modi, I absolutely agree with you, is a smart politician, and politicians as a breed know how to read the writing on the wall and to adapt accordingly. Mr. Modi is no exception, and he will stoop to conquer. No doubt about that. No doubt. If he's in a position where, in middle of his term, he does some big ticket decision and decides to go back to the people to get a complete majority. Yes, that's also possible. But he will see what the writing on the wall says. So I think he will have many challenges. Of course, to stabilize his government is a big challenge. Therefore, the continuity. It's a bit like, a house of cards. You move in a situation like that, you move one and you may just disturb the whole structure. Therefore, it's better to go with the familiar, what was known. And I would expect even, that's why Mr. Om Birla, Mr. Modi's choice would be Mr. Om Birla to give the impression of the continuity for speakership. Now, whether he'll be able to create a consensus,
that's interesting. Yeah,
allies will agree to it, remains to be seen. But it is part of the direction in which he's moving.
That's very interesting that Mr. Modi is signaling his authority by keeping the decisions or the faces or the roles almost the same as they were when he had much greater numbers. We'll come to the speaker in just a moment. But Shivraj Singh Chauhan, easily one of the most non-flamboyant, low-key, but very successful BJP leaders. Rajat Sethi on this program last time thought that the way he was sidelined in Madhya Pradesh was very wrong. I met a number of BJP voters who thought it was wrong as well. But he's never really spoken about himself. He's never rebelled. He's never come out in the public and said anything. But today his son made what I think is an extraordinary speech. I don't think we would have heard a speech like this earlier, where he spoke about how today even Delhi, even everybody in Delhi has to bow before the stature and the success of Shivraj Singh Chauhan. I'm translating loosely from the Hindi. Please take a look.
जानते तो पहले भी थे, इससे पहले मुख्यमंत्री के रूप में भी हमारे नेता लोकप्रिय थे, लेकिन पता नहीं आजकल ऐसा क्यों लगता है जब मुख्यमंत्री नहीं रहे तो और ज्यादा लोकप्रिय हो गए। और अब जब इतनी प्रचंड जीत के बाद हमारे नेता गए हैं तो आज पूरा दिल्ली भी नतमस्तक है, आज पूरा दिल्ली भी उनको जानता है, उनको पहचानता है, उनकी सम्मान करता है। और दिल्ली क्या, कश्मीर से लेकर कन्याकुमारी तक अगर किसी देश में सबसे बड़े नेताओं में अगर गिनती की जाती है तो हमारे नेता आदरणीय शिवराज सिंह चौहान जी की गिनती की जाती है। और ये अगर संभव करके दिखाया है तो हमारे क्षेत्र के लोगों ने, हमारे बुधनी के लोगों ने, हमारे धनुल्ला, नसुल्लागंज, हमारे चकलदी के, लाड़कुई के, गोपालपुर के, हम तुम्हारे हैं।
I'll start with you, Rajat. I'll start with you because you were very candid in your feelings about how Mr. Chauhan, this was before I think the cabinet was sworn in, how Mr. Chauhan had been sidelined in Madhya Pradesh. He's now, of course, a cabinet minister. But his son saying, that he's now amongst the biggest leaders, recognized from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Aaj Delhi mein bhi unka itna saman hai ki everybody has to bow down before what he has achieved. Is this just an innocuous speech according to you?
Yes, I think, again, his kids speaking to his constituencies, people, supporters, and all should not be pulled out of context. And my previous remark on your show was around the fact that when he was removed as chief minister, and he made a very emotional speech कि पहले मैं मुख्यमंत्री था, हर होर्डिंग पे मेरी फोटो लगती थी और बड़े साइज में लगाते थे लोग, और जब से मैं हटा हूँ वहां से, मैं ट्रैक्टर चला रहा हूँ विदिशा में, तो होर्डिंग से मेरी फोटो ही ऐसे गायब हो गई जैसे गधे के सर से बाल जैसे गायब होते हैं. तो ही जस्ट, आई थिंक he made some such remark over there, and just felt that if you are trying to bring in a new generational leadership, keep the institutional memories along, for somebody who has run the state for 23 years, and try and utilize that asset, which other parties can't even boast of. Look at Congress party. Do they have a single leader with that much of experience? None at all. Look at any other party. I think barring a few here and there, Naveen Patnaik ji or Mamata ji, etc., I don't see the experiences there at all anywhere. So leaving him back to his home village was something which I believe that it was a resource underutilized, and especially when it comes to agricultural issues being your single biggest bone of contention in your previous regime. You could have possibly used him. That was my simple point. But yes, I think the BJP understood that, yes, at times you require people who can walk across the aisle and do the negotiation bit. He will be useful for the party, and he will further help Prime Minister Modi steady the ship. It will be a very collaborative, nice environment without any confrontation at all.
So you don't read any meaning into his son's.
Unfortunately for the media, no.
Okay. Dilip and Nirja, do you agree quickly? Because I want to spend the last 5 minutes just talking about Speaker and Rahul Gandhi's roles. Yeah, Dilip.
There's a story doing the rounds in Rajasthan about Om Birla's elder brother having made similarly boastful remarks about Om Birla and his role in Delhi, which happened during the election and therefore got swamped a little bit and didn't get the news coverage. So I was asking myself the question, where does the elder brother of Om Birla or the son of Shivraj Chauhan get these fantastic dreams of their, of the leadership of their family members? I think it comes from dinner table conversation, and it must reflect something of the importance that some of these leaders perhaps want to show to their own families. Whatever it is, the fact is that I don't think that foolish remarks of this kind need to be, the basis of political analysis, but one understands where the trauma is in these families, because every single member of the party has a feeling of being diminished. And I think this is coming a bit from that. And that reflects how the people in the party are feeling.
Nirja, how do you see it? Rajat sees innocuous. Dilip says it's that sense of being diminished. Those who have felt diminished in the sort of towering shadow of the Modi-Shah regime are now finding their voice. It may amount to nothing.
Well, I would say, with statements like that, I always think there is a method in the madness. Things don't just happen. And obviously, he's feeling that he's not getting his due. I would read it like that. You remember in Varanasi when the Prime Minister, the farmers' welfare scheme, Kisan Nidhi, that he announced, Shivraj Chauhan was very prominently there, taking responsibility by his side. But then when the press conference was done later, it was Ashwini Vaishnav who made all the announcements, not Shivraj Chauhan. I'm only going purely by the optics and just putting questions there. I think in the pecking order in the cabinet, Shivraj Chauhan is number 6, Gadkari is number 4. Gadkari is moved up. Rajnath Singh is number 2. Now all these are senior stalwarts who were quiet in the last term, quieter than they should have been. And certainly Shivraj Chauhan has, won with a whopping majority, more than 8 lakhs. That's not to be sniffed at.
As we watch this space, let's spend the last few minutes talking about both LOP and Speaker. So, Rajat, I'll start with you. There's this, I think we all know and agree that the BJP will get the Speaker's post, contrary to the kind of media reports that were coming earlier that the TDP would ask for it. To Dileep's point, that Mr. Modi is signaling continuity wherever he can, and he's signaling something politically through that. So, you may well have the same Speaker. Your comment on that, and also on the leader of opposition. Will it matter if Rahul Gandhi takes it? Does it not matter? Does it, how do you see both?
I think on Rahul Gandhi's point of view, I think de facto he will be the LOP. De jure, I don't know. Even if you have a de jure different LOP, they will bow down before him as if he's the LOP. He will keep getting those spots to speak when typically the LOP sort of speaks. So I think de facto he'll continue. I think it'll be good if he, sort of becomes a de jure as well, because that will allow him to then more proactively be part of various small committees, which does a lot of appointments, so that he doesn't come out and say that, okay, CBI is a government's caged parrot, or the election commission is this, and all of those things. So this is where I think his direct involvement would help him have more trust on our institutions. On the Speaker's question, I believe that it could also be a surprise. I mean, it might as well be an equal bit of surprise that used to be Prime Minister Modi's signature style, to throw up surprises that media never anticipates. It could be somebody from Odisha or somebody from elsewhere. You never know. I think so. It's just kite flying. We should not get into it. I think this is my
fair enough. Dileep?
And the Home Minister have gone and called on Om Birla, I think is, to my mind and my reading of politics, ominous. They don't usually go to say, thank you, you've done a great job, we want you to do a greater job next time. That's not how it works. Second, Rahul as LOP, my sense is that if what I said earlier, that other people also are able to read the tea leaves, that Parliament is not the space where everything happens anymore. It is the streets, it is other institutions, it is the courts, it is several other things of equal importance. Then he may not consider the LOP thing. But the big thing that is an overhang, and which should convince him to do that, is that taking on a role which he did not take during the 10 years of UPA, has been a constant criticism, not that he's bothered by it. And this is certainly one person who does not need to do that to burnish his CV, which many other lesser mortals may want to do just to add something to their CVs. So I think that if he does it, it'll be because he believes that spending time in Parliament will be part of the pressure tactic on the government.
Okay, Neerja, we are also not in this session, but soon going to be looking at a parliament session where 3 members of the Gandhi family will be in parliament. Is dynasty now a dead point of political debate? What has happened with that? And any quick takes on LOP and Speaker before we close?
Look, Rahul's fortunes are on the upswing. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra did very well in this election. People viewed her very differently from the way they looked at her in the past. I was in the midst of audiences. I saw that with my own eyes. And of course, Mrs. Gandhi is the matriarch who's in the Rajya Sabha. And of course, they are giving a lead to their party. From all accounts, Rahul Gandhi is going to be the prime ministerial face of the Congress whenever the moment comes. But, and you are right. And the Congress will also read out to you a whole list of dynasts now in the BJP. Regional parties defend it. As they say, Parivarvad is here to stay. It's an integral part of Indian politics. But I would say, and you talked about 65% of India being under 35. Young Indians should ask this question. If this trend continues, will India's democracy be limited to 300 families before long? And is that good for our democracy?
Yeah, many questions, and nothing stays constant in politics. That is the only constant. So I think we leave it there. An interesting session of Parliament. In taking Dileep's point that Parliament is not the only place where politics unfolds. Even so, it's going to be interesting because it's going to be different from before, and just that freshness will make it a little more sort of a keenly watched space. We leave it there. Rajat Sethi, Dileep Cherry, Neerja Chaudhary. Always a pleasure. To our audience, have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.